It's a special meeting for us. We would normally have had our meeting last week, but for a variety of reasons to do with what was going on out in the construction and meetings and so on, we're meeting today. So that's why it's called a special meeting. So we will start with roll call. So start down here. Commissioner Taylor.
Present.
Commissioner Ross.
Present.
Let's see. Vice Chair, I always have to think about these things. Vice Chair Miyagi.
Present.
And Commissioner Silverstein.
Present.
And Chair Kavanaugh, I am here. So we did have, for our agenda, changes, requests, and deletions. There was one initially printed, and then we did do a change, but nothing else has changed, I don't believe. So are there any other additions, changes, or requests here tonight? I don't see any. So moving on, we do have an oral communication. So I would like to invite Judith Wasserman to the microphone, please. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much. I figured I had to be here anyway. I'd use this opportunity. My name is Judith Wasserman. I was on the Public Art Commission 14 or 15 years ago. And during the time that I was on the Art Commission, we had some artwork that went into California Avenue. And the piece I'm particularly concerned about is the one called California Avenue, California Native, which is the one at the intersection of El Camino, which has many parts to it. And right now is in pieces all over because of all the construction. There are boulders all over the place. And at one point, the merchants didn't like the plain grass, and they put in annuals. And the one thing that needs to be, another thing that needs to be fixed like right away is on the sign, the big concrete sign that says California Avenue, that is supposed to be painted California Golden, not tan or sick pink or whatever color it is now, but there is a specific color that's supposed to be, that's related to the color of the banners, which is like the Golden State. I mean, there's a theme here, and I thought that now that the Avenue is going to come back together again, and you guys are the shepherds of our public art, I would remind you that that piece is in need of, what do they call, conservation, I believe.
Right, and we have our maintenance budget for just those sorts of things. So thank you for
Excellent.
calling that to our attention. We appreciate
Thank you
it.
very much.
Thank you. Okay, so we are moving to our minutes. We have two sets of minutes to approve because I deferred one from December 9th and our 18th. This was the special meeting that we had had to review the ordinance for the municipal percent for art, that we also had our city attorney come and talk with us. So those notes were fine. I'm not sure anybody had any changes, additions, or deletions to those. So let's go ahead and make a motion to approve those.
I motion to approve them.
Thank you, and I will second. So all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? One abstain. Thank you. So the motion carries with 1, 2, 3, 4 of us approving. And then the second was the meeting minutes from our December 18th meeting. Did anyone have any changes to those? I didn't. It covered our Sherman Avenue project, the Public Art Master Plan presentation by Barbara Goldstein. Okay, so I will look for a motion on that one.
Move to approve the minutes from Thursday, December 18th.
Thank you. And I will second those. So all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? One abstain, thank you. Vice Chair Miyagi was not with us, so. All right, motion carries. Approved minutes. So we are making quick order for all of our guests in the audience tonight. We're moving on. So we have our financial report from Elise DeMarzo, our Public Art Program Manager.
And this will be fairly quick. As you look at the CIP budget, the only thing that has moved is the $50,000 allocation for Public Art Master Plan is now moved up under commitments. So we move forward with that. Are there any questions on the CIP? Okay. The municipal percent for art funds have not changed since the last time. And then as you go to the maintenance budget, the new items are actually one for California Avenue, California Native. As the boulders and all those pieces get reintegrated into the site, the banners are being reprinted because they have taken a beating over the course of the construction. So those are being printed, and that is the only change in the maintenance budget for this month.
Okay, and on that one, I think I was just, for some reason, I thought there were several things in the pipeline, yeah, future projects. So I assume you all are busy, Nadia, and at least thinking about how we'll be allocating those, since we're, believe it or not, halfway through the year, and
Yes.
we never want to let our artworks go untouched. Great. So were there any questions, comments on any of the budget items? We will talk about that at another time too, when we create our special meeting about funding. So that's another topic. All right. Then I think we get to move to our staff comments. Elise, are you ready with that one?
Yes.
All right.
So continuing on the California Avenue theme, on December 23rd, the previous California Avenue fountain was demolished, and the whole plaza has now been regraded and torn up so that we can begin building a new, more inviting plaza for the public. The new fountain by Michael Sabo, so there's a picture as you're looking from what was the tip of the island. The fountain would have been in the foreground, and then you see the entrance to the tunnel down there to the right, to the bike pedestrian tunnel. So the plaza is expanded, and the site for the future fountain will be further integrated into the plaza. So the timing for that will probably be early February, depending on how things are moving. The fountain itself is coming along beautifully. The water tests have been spectacular. There is a time-lapse video of the construction of the fountain that's been taking place in Sabo's studio over this time. So we should have an interesting video to show at the end of it, of the fabrication of the piece. And there's Michael Sabo taking a video of the demolition of the old fountain, too. The next item I have for you in staff comments is regarding the University Avenue tunnels. So just this past Tuesday, we did some further light tests on 2 different lighting systems to test them for the saturation and the color that we could get from each different system. Ala Ebtekar is teaching a class at Stanford University this semester focused on the further development of the project. It's a public art practicum completely focused on implementing this project. We should have a funding goal identified within the next week or so that we can raise the remaining funds and actually install this temporary public artwork. And Binta Ayufemi, who is the partner artist on this, is hard at work on the audio portion and the interactive app that would go with it. And that's it for my staff comments.
Great, both are exciting. I think we need to prepare ourselves for the fountain and our drought, and the fact that maybe we won't have water in it for a while. But that's another conversation. All right, so I think we get to move on to the non-action items. You all who were with us in December might remember that there was the bike bridge competition, and we got a little bit of a preview, and now tonight we actually get to have the presentations here, and then they'll be looking, they being the entire city of Palo Alto, for the Art Commission's input as well on the 3 schemes as they're going to all the boards and commissions for input. So pay close attention and get ready, and without further ado, turn it over. I guess I'm welcoming, must be Elizabeth. Hi, nice to meet you.
Good evening. Thank you so much. I'm Elizabeth Ames, the project manager for the Bike Bridge project. And the competition, which was very exciting, a little recap is we had contracted with AIA, California Council. They help manage the competition. They select the jury, and we had provided some design guidelines that we had worked with our consultant on. Alto Planning and Design helped us kind of get to the stage where we have design guidelines where we had like a footprint of where the bridge could be placed, and we had some various alignments that kind of guided the designers. So we had a footprint of where we were going to put the bridge, and we had guidelines, we had guiding principles that the council also weighed in on, and all of that information was provided to the competitors. The jury shortlisted 3 teams, and as a result of their designs, that they came forward and did a full PowerPoint presentation to the full 5-member jury and 4-member ARB. Kind of was like a joint meeting, and they deliberated and selected submission A as the winner, which is like the arch bridge. The second runner-up was submission C, which is more of the linear design, and then third place was this kayak kind of portage design, which was made out of wood. So that was in third place. And so what I'm trying to do is I wanted to draw your attention to this matrix, or this comments matrix, which is like the first page. Well, I guess you have a new updated version. Sorry, that was just passed out. So that
I was going to just say, for the commissioner's sake, in the packets, there was the older one, but they added the ARB comments.
Yes.
And so it's a flyer, a sort of separate page that has color at the top. So it should be in the back, just so you see. So that's the comments that Elizabeth is referring to.
Yes, thank you. And so that attachment was on the first page of attachment F, which also has like the ARB, or the joint ARB jury commission or competition minutes, and it's got public comments also that we're receiving as time progresses. This great website, and we have the YouTube videos, and people are commenting on each design as they come in. So that's also included in your packet. So we actually would like to take this kind of pro and con approach to each design, and we're taking this information to the boards and commissions and kind of not asking for a vote, so to speak, but because we already had the competition. Unless you feel compelled to vote, that's fine too, it's up to you. But we are hoping to just get a pro and con roughly on what your thoughts are on each submission. And we were thinking of just showing you the YouTube videos, and then I believe, are the 2 design teams here or just one? Just one. Okay, so we could, it's kind of an organic process, but basically we were allowing the teams to talk like 5 minutes or so, it's up to you, about their design, better them than me to explain this. And then we would open it up to the public and to you to deliberate or to talk about the pros and cons. So I'm essentially trying to get your input and forward this over to the city council, and then hopefully the city council will give staff direction on the preferred design.
Great, sounds good. So I'd be happy to let the design team spend their 5 minutes for whichever A, B, or C that you are with, because certainly thank you for coming. So do you want to start with that one? Or do you want to go in the order of A, then C, then B? Or you want to do the YouTube video? I thought that you said it was organic. Guess not.
Yeah,
so organic.
however, we were just going A, B, and C, but after each video, we'd have the teams come up. And also we have a very important person here, Judith Wasserman, who was the chair of the competition, and so she also will be here to answer any questions you have on the deliberations that happened on December 17th, which was the competition.
Okay.
Can I just ask one clarifying question? So the first, second, and third place, I know what that means in general terms, but in this particular competition, there hasn't been a final chosen bridge, correct?
Well,
So when you say first, second, and third place, what are you referring exactly?
So the competition resulted in a winner, which was the arch design,
Okay.
submission A.
That's right,
So they
okay.
did do a ranking, that was their charge. I'm not asking for the boards and commissions to vote and do kind of a similar process, because during the competition, we had PowerPoint presentations and they had the full team there. So we're not doing the competition over and over for each commission. So that's why it's kind of a condensed version. You're getting the YouTube video tonight and like a commentary from the teams that are present. But there was a vote, and they
Okay.
did select
I
the
guess I'm a
arch.
little bit confused in terms of like the pros and cons, because if we give a recommendation, I mean, since the winner has already been chosen, then it really doesn't make,
It has to be approved by the
Effect.
city council,
Right.
right? I mean,
Sorry, yes. So
Sorry, I
eventually,
just wanna
your
clarify.
information would get conveyed to the city council. The city council will be the ultimate decision maker in the process.
Yep.
So even though we had this great competition and deliberation, the council would eventually decide on a winner, potentially. This could happen, I don't know, but that's our hope. And then after that decision, we would enter into a design contract with the winning team, or chosen team, and that team would then implement the design that was presented. So right now, just to give you more background on the project, we're in this environmental assessment stage, and we've done a little bit of preliminary design, and so what we're going to do is kind of marry the two. We've got an environmental impact report that might get circulated potentially in the spring or summer of this year, and we were going to tie in this new design into this environmental process. So in order to do that, the council has to pick a design, and then we would enter into a design contract. That really is why I think the teams were also interested in doing these submissions, because they could get a design contract for the project, which would eventually get implemented, and we would start construction in 2017.
okay, so I think we're ready to commence with the video, right?
So we'll go ahead with submission A, which is the arch design.
For many years, the infrastructure of the automobile has created emissions, noise, and divisions in our communities. Palo Alto has instead embraced a more multimodal future, choosing walking and cycling, developing car sharing, and even self-driving vehicles. Palo Alto's Adobe Creek pedestrian and cyclist bridge is an opportunity to create a more multifunctional, forward-looking infrastructure, drawn from the trajectories of the cyclists moving along it and the sinuous waterways of the bay. It is designed not as an icon, but as an experience. Here at the confluence of Adobe and Barren Creeks, we can create an opportunity for experience, for beauty, and a deeper understanding of our natural world. West of Highway 101, the bridge ascends in a counterclockwise loop, arcing over the freeway before descending in a broad circle. To the east, a new gathering space provides a place to sit and take in the view, with amenities including bicycle repair. Encircled by the bridge is a new vernal pond and boardwalk, a new way to explore the Baylands. Recognizing the challenges of multiple users traveling the same route, the bridge creates dedicated zones for pedestrians and cyclists, lifting one above the other and separating them in plan. Over the freeway, the arch gestures to the sky, creating a cathedral-like space. More than a crossing, it is a space to pause and reflect. Twin pathways over the Baylands integrate structure within their solid interior rails, levitating over the sensitive landscape below, with piers nearly 100 feet apart. West of the freeway, bicycles are outboard, maximizing their turning radius. Here, pedestrians are oriented outward, the walkway expanding to provide a place for birdwatching, resting on a bench, and taking in the view. Structured as an arch, the bridge leans northward, counterposed to the deck, a network of thin cables between. A gateway over the freeway, this innovative structure is slender, structurally efficient, and cost-effective, with excellent seismic performance. It eliminates supports in the median and between US 101 and Bayshore, increasing safety and future flexibility. Constructed of corrosion-resistant weathering steel, its warm hues are sympathetic with the Bayland's natural palette. Our innovative approach extends to construction. Erected at a temporary location while foundation work is underway, the arch can then be rolled into place with self-propelled modular transports, reducing traffic disruption to a single nighttime closure. The landscape recognizes its strategic place in the broader watershed, leveraging its small footprint for larger-scale change through hydrologic and symbolic connection. Stormwater is captured from the bridge, bike path, and frontage road, treated and routed to a new basin. As this water mixes with seasonal groundwater and residual bay mud salinity, this vernal pool creates a new ecological niche. Overflow and gray water from a possible bathroom and drinking fountains can be recaptured in tanks concealed in the bridge abutments, irrigating vertical gardens of pollinator species flanking their sides. This site, like the rest of the bay, must address sea level rise. The design anticipates this change, enabling future ecologies and habitats, and communicating the importance of resiliency. Bridge lighting is designed to conserve energy and be environmentally sensitive. Integrated sensors trigger white light in response to motion, guiding users along the pathway. From the freeway beneath, a jogger is visible as they approach, a comet's trail arcing overhead with the passing cyclist. Finally, a large-scale artwork is integrated into the bridge, utilizing technology to engage the natural phenomena of the site. Brushed stainless steel discs are fixed to the cable net, weather vanes swaying in the wind, deterring birds and ensuring their safety. Undulating with each gust and passing vehicle, they sparkle in the sun, an ineffable experience of motion and light. We look to places like Palo Alto for what is possible, for what is next for smart, forward-looking cities. We hope this new bridge can similarly be a model, a confluence uniting the community, the landscape of the bay, and your shared future.
So did you want the team to talk about this design for 5 minutes or so? Is that okay?
Is that who's present?
Yes.
Okay, sure, that'd be
Okay,
great.
great.
Welcome and thank you for coming.
Thank you for having us. My name is Marcel Wilson. I represent the HNTB and 64 North team. We wanted to just start out by thanking the city for including us in this process. It's a really important for the city, an important competition. We're excited to have been selected by the jury and to share our design with you. Before I talk about our selected projects and the role of art within it, I wanted to introduce our team. Our team is led by HNTB Engineering. They're the leader nationwide in the design of complex bridge projects. Our team notably completed both the Marys Avenue Bridge in Cupertino, the first cable-stayed bridge over an interstate in California, as well as 2 similar arch spans in San Jose's Happy Hollow. And those were only $4 million, which is a significant accomplishment. And that's the experience that gives us the confidence as it relates to the structural integrity, cost effectiveness, and ease of permitting this design. Another important part of our team from the very beginning is artist Ned Kahn. Ned's actually landing right about now on a flight from Argentina. He sends his regrets that he couldn't be here tonight, and he looks forward to meeting everyone soon. Ned's an internationally renowned artist. He's a MacArthur Genius Fellow, as is our lead engineer, Ted Zoli. He's based here in the Bay Area, and his work's unique because it engages natural phenomena, including wind, water, and produces artworks that capture these natural forces and create an extraordinary beauty and dynamism. If you've seen or experienced any of his projects, you may have had these same reactions. So the steel discs that you saw in the video that are hung across the intersection points of the arch's cables reflect the sun during the day and the car's headlights at night. They create a shimmering, extraordinary kind of phenomena that's the creation and the convergence of man-made and natural forces, and captures that and renders it visible to those of us in our day-to-day lives. Those also have an ecological purpose because they will flash like you might see mylar tape in a winery to deter birds. And we all know, and from the beginning we've been very sensitive to the presence and the significance of the baylands. For the motorist, this is an artwork that emerges from a half a mile away and continues to evolve as you approach it and pass underneath it. And so we've already begun to test and develop via full-scale mock-ups, as you've seen on the boards and in the video, ensuring that this artwork can be constructed in a cost-effective manner, and that the brushed stainless steel will not be tuned, and it won't be a hazard, create a hazard with motorists. And it's this integration of art and science that you see in the steel discs and the network cables and the arch that continues, and that experience and approach continues down into the baylands on a boardwalk loop, which will serve as a meter to measure the influence of sea level rise in the future. And that's an immersive experience. So the artwork doesn't just begin and end with the bridge, but it's really the whole experience, as we were talking about. So for us, and our whole team, art has been integral to our process, from the form of the bridge to the public art elements to the landscape and experience. It's not an afterthought. It's not pressed into the concrete. It's not a token nod to vanishing species. It's really an integral and functional part of the bridge. I want to focus on two important points as it relates to the bridge as a whole, and public art and costs are issues that we've considered seriously within the context of what this costs overall. The cost of the bridge, our bridge is the only design that spans the 101 in its entirety. It eliminates the important safety concerns with the structure of the medians and the costly conflicts with gas mains and other infrastructure. And it's maybe a perception that because it's taller, it's more costly. And then in fact, the opposite is true. The jury member, Steve Burrows, the engineer on the jury, noted that the arch is a tried and true structural solution, and I think he said the Romans did it pretty well. And we were able to structure the entirety of the project with a single steel section, creating the most efficient, cost-effective solution, one that can provide a significant span within the project budget. It's also very beautiful, we believe, as a sculptural object itself. This approach has more than an impact on just the structuring costs. It has an important impact on the bridge as it relates to the baylands as well. Because of the overall depth of the arch, we can create the lightest and delicate touch on the landscape. And with the bridge deck only being 18 inches thick, it has a great degree of transparency and appears to float over the landscape beneath. In closing, we've sought to create a project that has great presence but a light touch. It is and that is with regard to the bridge itself as well as art. It has it is integral, it is essential, it's ecological, and it's sustainable as a piece of infrastructure. We hope that this project can really underline the importance of public art to the city of Palo Alto and be a game changer, really, in terms of the impact that public art can have on experience, but also the way in which it can connect us to the natural world around us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very well stated. All right, so are we moving on to video 2?
Yes.
Okay.
On to video, to the portage.
We were called to the competition to connect Palo Alto to the Baylands Preserve. So the real question for us was how to get across in an inspirational way, in a beautiful way.
The structure in its simplest form models the frame of a wood frame kayak covered with skin.
Our poetic response to this project is that of portage, moving people from one side to the other across this barrier. A kayak is a very solid structure, but very light.
Using wood as a material is key in providing the most minimal impact on the environment. The lightest material will provide the most economical design and feel most appropriate, linking the communities of the high-tech world with the sustainability aspects of the bay.
The way this bridge occupies the land is really one of tremendous respect. This is a major bird watching area in the Pacific Flyway. Everything from hawks to waterfowl, it's extraordinarily diverse. The bridge itself becomes kind of that first experience of coming to an observation deck and having that opportunity to catch your first glimpse of the very rich ecology, of the very rich bird life that is found in and around the preserve. What's really spectacular about this ascent and descent is the relationship.
Collect all the water across the span. That will go into a basin, bring it through this amazing artwork by Ned Kahn that will allow the water to go down into the soil, back into Adobe Creek purified. The air will be purified by a sustainable forest and offer it up to the community artists. The forest will be replanted at that time, and by such will sequester carbon over its lifetime, thus purifying the air that surrounds it. The solar energy that's created on site will be used for all activities, both to purify the water, to run the electricity for the bridge. So we will have an energy neutral project as well as a carbon neutral project.
The bridge itself became this very light structure, and it touches the land very lightly. So the experience of walking across the bridge is really one of floating.
One of the ways to provide the most economical span crossing is to reduce the length of the bridge. To do this, we lifted the structure to the sides, and by doing so, we allowed the structure to pass over the highway in the most minimal length of path. This reduces the overall cost of the project, and we would like to try to provide a bridge that minimizes the amount of waste for this crossing, to try to be as sustainable as possible. In fact, we would argue that our bridge has no footprint whatsoever.
As we progress as a society, ecology is not one thing pure and simple, separate from people, but in fact it's the bringing together of the two systems, quite honestly.
So I don't think that team is here. But they haven't been showing up to the other boards and commissions. But I would just draw your attention to the guiding principles, which is one of those attachments. I think it's, what is it, B, that I don't have the packet in front of me. But there's interconnectedness, there's innovation, conservation, and versatility, I believe. And so those are the kind of the themes that the council and the council thought was kind of the guiding principles to inspire these designers to create something like this. So I guess we can just move on to the next video, which is submission C, the linear.
The Palo Alto Bay is a vast landscape, a visual feast of forms and colors, of sights and smells, a place of biological magic that happens when salt and fresh water mix. This project is located at a special spot, at the confluence of two creeks. It will connect natural and urbanized environments. And it's at the transition zone between two biomes. The flowing lines, low-profile structure, and architectural materials evoke the forms and colors of the Baylands. The result is a design that is beautiful and dramatic, yet respectful of context, timelessly modern, bird-friendly, cost-effective, and easy to construct. Let's take a virtual tour of the project. Along the Bay Trail, just north of Adobe Creek, you discover a small touchdown plaza. Native sycamores along the creek help give shape to this outdoor place. On the wetland side, rings of native plants surround the plaza and draw your eye to the Baylands horizon. You might stop and sit in the shade and watch people, or wander closer to restored wetland areas, discovering how different plant species make their homes at different elevations. Perhaps you notice how the rich earth tones of the bridge structure and lighter tones of the walking surfaces are derived from colors in the natural bayland setting. You discover beautiful artwork in the plaza surface, which was inspired by shapes of local plants. The east approach structure sweeps out and up from the plaza in a dramatic, curving form that appears to float without any visible means of support over the wetlands. You are invited by this sweeping form to make your way up a gently sloping pathway. As you emerge from the riparian tree canopy, you are struck by an expansive view of the Baylands. Here, the slow lane of the pathway widens to allow you to pause for a moment or sit down and rest. Small signs tell you about plants and animals that live below, how the railing is designed to avoid perching spots for predatory birds, and how the stainless steel mesh was selected to prevent bird collisions. As you reach the top, you notice that the stainless steel pipe railing on your left rises to a high point above the edge of the roadway, and then swoops down gracefully to a low point at the center of the bridge, serving both architectural and structural functions. As you enter the fenced span over the freeway, perhaps the interplay of flowing lines of the bridge structure evoke contextual landscape forms. These lines and a slight increase in width toward the center of the span shape the space, so you experience the main span as a place and not just a tunnel-like passageway. At the west end of the main span, you might choose to take stairs which swoop down to the sidewalk, or you might pause at the lookout over Barron Creek. When you reach the touchdown plaza on the west side, you notice that the lane lines and colors of the pathway extend gracefully out into the concrete scoring pattern and walking surface artwork. Indeed, the trees and grasses, architectural materials, forms, textures, and artwork which create this pedestrian-friendly urban street space on the west side all come from the Bayland side, much as species intermingle at the transition zone between two biomes. Perhaps you pause at the West Touchdown Plaza to look over the creeks or sit on a bench, or you continue on the Adobe Creek Reach multi-use pathway or the bike lane along West Bayshore Road. The Moffett and Nickel SGA team is prepared to deliver a Silicon Valley landmark, a statement of Palo Alto's commitment to the natural environment, to a beautiful urban environment, and to quality of life in the Bay Area.
So I don't see that team here. Okay, so, but we do have Judith Wasserman here, and I'm hoping that she can kind of recap like what her thoughts are and what the competition jury kind of deliberations were. She can recap what was discovered at that meeting on December 17th.
Yeah, maybe. I'll give you a quick overview of how we ended up selecting what we selected. We were charged, the jury was charged by the council to rank the three applicants. We had 20 teams that submitted interest and qualification statements and selected these three from from that group and then ranked the three after they made their presentations. And the kayak project, well, first just let me say that I was astounded at the quality of the submittals. There's a very small budget, it was a very constrained RFP, and the quality of the submittals was just extraordinary. And I think the poetry and the beauty of all of the designs just blew us away, and we had a hard time. The kayak just seemed to be a little too fragile for the location. I think we all wanted that bridge personally in some smaller space where it wasn't going to be car fumes and a lot of noise. It was beautiful, but it just didn't seem to work as well. The other two were really close. One of the principles or the descriptors that the council had was that they wanted an iconic landmark. And we somehow at the end felt that the arched bridge was more of that. From a public art point of view, we as a jury did not discuss it very much. But personally, I think they're all sculpturally gorgeous. I mean, my position was essentially that you could close your eyes and throw darts and not miss. It was, any of these would have been beautiful. And so each project has a public art aspect to it. Ned Kahn seems to be involved in 2 out of the 3, busy man. And I think that, that your questions or comments or discussion should revolve around the public art aspects. I was pleased that there weren't any statues or murals or, Calder-like mobiles in this, but that the art was all integrated into the work, which I thought was quite wonderful. So, have fun.
Did you have one other comment? Go ahead.
Yeah, so I thought Judith elaborated on that very well, because it's kind of these sculptural designs, and it also has another art component. It's got the the discs or the or there's like this imprint of nature into the concrete, and then there's another, I think that was like not a vernal pool, but Ned Kahn designed something in like a water feature almost in the second submission. So I would love to hear your comments on what you thought, even if on a sculptural level. I mean, you could go there if you wanted to, just be free, and I'm going to try to capture the pro and con on the designs, like I said, to convey to the city council.
Okay, thank you. I guess look to the commissioners, and looks like Commissioner Taylor is ready, so.
Thank you all, those of you who are present and not present, for your submissions. I agree that they're all very architecturally creative and friendly. And I had a couple of different thoughts about each, actually 2 in particular. So submission A, I loved your design. I don't know if you're familiar with Richard Serra, but it reminded me a lot of Richard Serra in that the bridge fits really nicely the design into the landscape, which I think is perfect for this area and what we need in that location. So I live right near that location. I had a couple of questions to ask you. So in the video, it mentioned that it would take only like a couple of evenings to put the bridge together. Is that true? Is that I don't know. Can you clarify, or can I clarify? I just want to.
Good evening. I'm John Litzinger with HNTV. And so the concept with the network tied arch bridge is that it can be assembled off to the side along either side of Bayshore, either east side or west side. And then once it's assembled, you could even have the deck poured on it, all the artwork placed. Then it is placed on these rollers, kind of a mobile transport, and then that transport rolls the bridge into place in a 1 to 4 hour freeway closure.
Okay.
And then once it's set down, then the transports go away, it's in place, and then it can be completed on all the other sides outside the Caltrans right-of-way.
Great. Well, first of all, I think that's great. That's a really big hub for traffic, and so if you could do that in the evening very quickly, I think it would be amazing. It's kind of like a, I wasn't say a miracle, but kind of, an overnight spectacular, and I think that's wonderful. The other thing is, I would agree with a couple of other discussions that were brought up about the lights and also the little reflectors. I'm afraid with motorists driving by, if that's going to cause some collisions. I don't know if you've tried it or seen examples of it out in the public and how it's worked and whether there's been any issues. I don't know if and please stop me if the actual design is finished or they can go back and make some changes. But in San Francisco, the new bridge, the Bay Bridge that they just fixed up, the lights are really neat, and I thought maybe that could be a nice alternative if that's a concern for a lot of people.
So the light patterns and the light type have been done elsewhere. So as a person, or if they're walking or on a bike as they go across, there's like a motion sensor so that the lights are coming on ahead of the person, particularly if they're on a bike and they're moving faster. So that has been in place in other areas. One example is up at UC Davis, where there are walkways either over the freeway or around the campus that as people are walking, then the lights are coming on and off. So there's a safety factor that's built into that. And then from the shimmering aspect and the artwork, since the discs are above the motorway, then any reflection down, and they're hanging more either vertically or, say, inclined along with the cables, then they're not shimmering down toward the freeway. So we don't think there would be any issues, but that is something that can be tested. And then the comment you had, is the design done? On all of these, like any kind of a project, as the design moves through the design phase process, then there are, what we would have is that design then goes out to the different commissions and different groups for input, adjustments along the way, to make the project the best it can be. So.
Great. And I was just going to also add one more a pro to the submission C. I really like the artwork on the pathway. I thought that was really neat. I couldn't tell, it looked like flowers, but maybe if something could be if that type of art could be used in this submission that gets approved, maybe they can use animals, their footprints, kind of to also add to the landscape. So, thank you.
Can I ask a question? So is 1% of the budget of this, whichever one is chosen will be public art?
Yes, so at the time the competition went out, we weren't certain that design teams were actually going to go ahead and integrate artists into the design, or if the call for artists would come afterward. So part of what you could comment on this evening, since they have all integrated artists, is how satisfied you are with the art integration. Once a final selection is made, we could determine that we want to take the art integration a slightly different path.
Okay.
So definitely, if you have feelings about the artist that's on the team or how that's been integrated, this would be a great time to voice that.
Okay. Or maybe I didn't know what the art was in each one, because I saw the leaves, the flowers and things, which I also really loved. That would be my comment. But I sort of missed what it was in A and B. If we could review that.
So maybe as we
I
comment,
didn't know if
you
the
might-
sparkly things, I
That's-
thought they were for bird deterrents. I didn't know if they were art or,
Yep,
you know
that's
what I
the
mean?
part, that's the integrated NEDCon piece, and then the
That was,
pool where
okay.
the runoff is coming in, the B selection was the actual collecting of the water, and then it was creating kind of a natural form
Okay,
from
Okay.
stormwater. So those were the two integrated, he sort of
Okay.
does these environmental kinds of things, so.
okay. Helps.
So do you want to proceed and provide your pros and cons for each? That's kind of what we're being
yeah.
charged to do.
Right, I sort of missed I saw one of the pools, but now I'm confusing which one is which, so I want to look at the
Okay,
images.
so you're going to defer,
Yeah.
okay.
Kathleen, can I just add one quick little thing?
Sure.
Since Dara mentioned she was a little confused, maybe it would be nice if some educational aspects were implemented into whatever design is chosen. So there's an explanation or a few explanations about what the architecture represents and maybe how it represents or connects to the Baylands. We're very smart people in this area, and we like to learn. Educated.
Please.
So thank you very much for your time and for the presentations. And I would agree with Ms. Wasserman that the caliber of submissions was quite excellent. It's really hard to comment on just the art aspect because I will be a potential user of this bridge. And so walker, biker, all of that. So, I'm already like thinking of how I'll be using it. But I would just like to take a minute, I'm not going to go like submission by submission, to just applaud the first ranked submission for integrating the art into the design. So often, everything's pretty much put to bed and then the public art is the afterthought, and it's very clear to the overall design. So I would just thank you so much for considering it and for the commission, the selection jury put together to have considered that as well. And I think it's quite lovely on the first choice. I would say that I can't quite remember, but if there is an opportunity to really look at the accessibility, the entrance and the exit of getting onto and off of this bridge, and if like art could help with any of that, and perhaps it has. And so I'm just saying what I think. The design is lovely, very elegant. I think it'll be well used. I think that the art is enhancing of that design, not distracting, and it's actually it all aesthetically works together. But those entry point, that accessibility to that bridge is kind of what I would feel is very important as a user. And I really also like the fact that there are clearly marked delineation between pedestrians and cyclists. So I would compliment you on that. And thanks. Can't wait to have it built.
I do want to clarify that you in no way are supposed to limit your comments just to the public art, the design of the entire bridge, so.
And did you want to offer any other comments on the other ones? No, you're good. Yeah. All right, moving on.
Well, thank you very much for the presentation. I think it was a tough choice between the three, and I think the one that one was selected, I think, was the best choice. The other two were wood, and I think that can be a problem. Weren't the other two wood? Or had
No,
wood
just the
in them?
one, the kayak or the portage was wood. The rest, the other two were steel, porch
Okay.
and steel.
I thought that the submission C had some wood in it that,
It looked like there was some siding along
Yeah.
where the pedestrians
There-
were. That looked like it was wood.
Yeah,
so I
some
think
of
that
the-
probably
the-
Ben's got it.
The railing had some wood on the side, on the railings.
Yeah.
And then there was also wood decking on the first submission on the arch. So those two had wood and steel. But the full wood design pretty much was the portage.
oh, okay, thank you. And I really like this. And one of the criteria was iconic piece of art, and I think this is it. And I think it's subtle, but it's very iconic that when you're driving along, you're going to see this. I like the fact that the bird problem was taken into account, because can be very challenging driving under something or walking under something that has hundreds of birds sitting on it. So I think with these discs, that is a great solution for that. My only concern with the discs is there's an airport very close by, the municipal airport, so the reflections off those discs for the pilots that are either taking off or landing can be a problem. So I think maybe that's something that needs to be looked at as well. But overall, I think this project is great, and the design is in itself is the art, I think. So you don't really have to add any more or too much more into it to make this this project better than it is. I applaud you all for this selection.
Okay, I will jump in and add my couple of remarks. I guess I would say that I do see the submission A as really a functional work of art. I mean, I think the whole thing is truly a coherent piece, and I really like the sensitivity to, I think in the approach and the sort of sweeping around is actually kind of part of the access issue about not having too steep of a grade and whatever on a bike or what have you. So anyhow, I love the integration of the NEDCON, like I said, as a coherent whole with the sculpture of the bridge. I'd say maybe on the con, because it's the longest, it could be possibly, a cost issue, but it sounds like if you built the bridge in Cupertino and Happy Hollow for $4 million, my guess is you can manage to do $8 million. On the other hand, that alone seems like a challenge. And then the 1%, I think, kudos for getting NEDCON to work on a project where it might only be $80,000 for that, but we'll see. We can, there's lots of ways to massage budgets. So on the second one, I guess I was equally concerned on the portage about the maintenance factor of the wood. So I thought there was a light touch and a creativity, and certainly appreciated the energy and carbon neutrality of it and the integration of the art. But just overall, you're thinking about wood and maintenance in the long term, and municipal projects don't get replaced as when they really probably should. So, so that was my big flag on that one. And I guess on the third one, I thought that while elegant, it just seemed a little bit too flat and simple. I mean, there was a bit of a curve, but I, unlike maybe some of my colleagues, thought lesser of the integrated art there. Felt a little bit like maybe even if it was presented such that the community was involved in putting some kind of imprints or something, that might have been more interesting. But otherwise, it just sort of seemed a little pedantic or expected, and so I wasn't as thrilled with that one. And I don't think many people are going to pause till they actually get to the Baylands side, because there's just a lot of traffic noise, and even when you're on that bike path going along, it's just not that pleasant. So you're going to kind of want to move across and get into the Baylands, I think, because that's where it gets nice. And so those are just my thoughts, but great job. Again, thrilled that Palo Alto went with the design competition, because I do think that we got incredible talent. HNTB leading that with 64 North and integrating your firms. Congratulations, great job. And hopefully we can get it going. So thank you. Did you want to add something? No comments? Okay, I think we're concluded then with our remarks tonight. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Chair Kavanaugh. Thank you so much. The commission did a great job in giving me a lot of comments. So we'll put that into the matrix, and hopefully that'll satisfy what I think I heard tonight. And it would be great if maybe you could attend the council meeting. We're tentatively scheduled for February 23rd.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, so we have one other item, non-action this evening, which is one of our art and private development projects for initial review. It's 430 Forest Avenue. And I'm afraid I don't know if you are the owner or developer or who you represent. The owner. Okay, so I think they're just making the transition here, and then we can,
Sorry? Oh, that will advance? Okay. 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 All right. Good evening. My name is Prabhash Kejriwal. I'm one of the owners and also the developer. It's hard to see those slides up there, but I guess walk through. They have
we each have one of these small
Okay,
monitors,
okay.
so we can get a little
Okay.
bit closer.
Okay, great. So this just shows the perspective from the street, the top two at left and right, and then the bottom is how the development will look on the side of the street. Please stop me anytime if you have any questions.
I was going to say, for the other commissioners, so this location is where the current AAA office is
That's
that
right.
correct? So
That's
that
correct.
might help people if you didn't Google map it.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I mean, I think
That's right.
that's the project site.
So the current use is a non-conforming use because it's an office building and it's zoned for a multifamily residential. So so the new, so the AAA is going to move out from there. So our plan is to tear down that building and put up this new multifamily project. This is a 13-unit project.
Okay, okay.
It's a 13-unit project. So and it's basically two buildings. There is a back building. There is a duplex townhomes, two townhomes, 2-story, and in the front building is a 3-story building with a third story is rather small. It's about half of the other lower 2 stories. Lower 2 stories have 10 units, two bedroom units, 10 units, five units in each level 1 and level 2. So this is what the front is projected to look, the entry. You see the penthouse at the top level. So this is the wall is next to the entry, the tall 2-story wall that you see. And that's where we are kind of thinking of appropriate place to put the public art. This is again a view, kind of bird's eye view of the building. You will see on the back there is a common kind of gathering place, common area. There is a kind of there is an oak tree next door, a very large oak tree, and that is on the next door property, but it's kind of a good amount of it overhanging our property. So that's where we picked the kind of public place. Again, another view. This shows the kind of public place, common place, kind of more detail. That's another kind of, this was our kind of second choice where a public art could be appropriate. Again, this is open. There is no kind of entry gate, so this is accessible from the street. This is another view of that common place. Now, so David Solnick, who is the architect, he has worked with this particular sculptor, artist who is in Yoshikawa, and he is based in LA, but he has done quite a few projects here actually. In Palo Alto, there's a water course way. He has done quite a few pieces there, many water features, many non-water features. So we visited that place and we kind of like it. And our thought is that it may be appropriate for this project. But of course, we are here to listen to your viewpoint and your guidance in this matter.
Thank you. Did you have any other comments? Or are you ready?
Yeah, sorry. So this is a couple of examples of the pieces that he has done. So our idea is that because of the tall 2-story kind of a flat wall, there should be something which is kind of a vertical in nature. That's kind of, that may go with that. And there are a few examples of some pieces that he has done. This is another one. And this is kind of another one. And this is yet kind of another one. Yeah. So that's all I have to present.
Great, thank you. Well, the project looks very nice. I think it'll be a handsome addition to Forest Avenue.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, begin with you, Commissioner Taylor.
Sure. So I was just curious, so you were talking about a common area, and if you could explain a little bit about the entryway, because the art is going to have to be seen for a certain amount of hours.
Right.
And I'm wondering if, because of the space, if people who live, the residents, would feel comfortable of having people come in that far to see the work of art.
Right. So our first preference is the front wall.
Can you show that on the map? Perfect.
This wall. So this is they're looking at from the street, so that it has a redwood lap siding, that is the two-story flat wall without any windows and all that. So that should we are thinking that should be the backdrop against which the art should be there. So most likely, so that's our first preference.
I think that's a nice idea. Yeah. And maybe add some, perhaps color might be nice too. Because
you mean to the wall or the?
To the artwork. Maybe have the artwork be a brighter
Colorful.
color.
Okay.
Or, I mean, the other thing is, do you want it to fit more naturally into the space so it looks more like the residential area?
Right.
Is a big question. But I think, it looks very organic, and so I'm even thinking something nature-wise might be nice. And I think the pieces and the artists that you're looking at has that very kind of Zen, relaxed feeling.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so I think that's a nice choice, and yeah.
So one of our consideration is we want definitely to be integrated with the building. Whatever we place, it should not look like it has been just dumped there. It should be integrated with the building. So that is our, and we have discussed that at length with the artist, and he feels confident that he can make that happen, make that integrate with the building.
Any other comments? No, good. All right. Anyone else?
I was just wondering of the different, since you've been talking to the artists, of the different examples you showed us, is there one way he's leaning of any of?
No,
Okay.
he's saying he needs to kind of,
Okay.
once he is kind of chartered to do it, he is going to have his creative, then come up with some options that he will present to us, and then of course we will present to you, and then So no, right now, all he has said is it needs to be something that's
more
kind of a tall, vertical,
Okay.
to kind of integrate with the backdrop.
Yeah.
And but no, we haven't engaged him because without going through the commission, we didn't want to really get started with that. So we haven't engaged him yet.
Okay. Well, they look beautiful, so I think it looks great.
I guess I think I'm going to just offer that I think you're maybe getting a little more silence than usual from us because of a couple of reasons. One, it's the first multifamily residential project that we've seen. And so thinking about art kind of in a residential context is a little bit different than some of the commercial projects that we've been looking at. And quite honestly, I think also I'm not certain that others had as strong of an idea as you have coming in. And so I think actually just looking at the what I would describe as the very modernist sense of the buildings, I really like the choice of the artist. I think that if the architect has worked with this artist and has a good working relationship, sounds like you do, I think you've picked a great location. I think the forms, as a kind of organic, natural kind of form, the things that we've seen, certainly I've seen the work at Watercourse Way, that would be a really kind of nice, I guess, antidote maybe to the modern. And so I think you've done a great job. Usually what we do is kind of show images of ideas of ways to go and light and sound and so on, which don't really feel like perhaps as appropriate for a multifamily residential, in my opinion.
Right.
And you do sort of have this set up to kind of perfectly accept that. So I guess I'm just going to say, go for it. I think you're going to add a beautiful piece of work to the city, and we're grateful for it.
Okay.
Those are my thoughts.
Thank you so much for coming. Sure. So Kathleen
summed up quite eloquently what I think that we are all thinking. What I would say, though, is, I'm not familiar with this artist's work intimately, so my inclination would be, with a $50,000 budget, to make sure that it looks like it'll be a sculpture of some type, like really does work with the scale of the building once you decide it. The decision for the setting and the decision of the art that can be made in the budget need to go together. So I would say that that's quite a large facade area, so it would be tragic is too strong a word, but it would be tragic to have something quite small in order to put it in the front-facing position, in like location and accessibility. I think that it needs to work with the scale of the building, with the size that you get. Right. So that needs to be taken into consideration. And my secondary consideration would be then that accessibility thing. Like basically what I'm saying is, if it's not scalable to that place, it should go then in that other area if that's where it makes more sense to go.
I see. Okay.
That would be my inclination, because I think ultimately what we do want and what we all are sitting here doing is to get the best quality art for the city. Right. And so, I just, that would just be my input.
The first thought is based on the budget and the discussion with the artist, that he can accomplish that goal. Yes. So.
Any other?
And I was just going to say, since you mentioned that that's something to think about, that if, he can accomplish that, that's not a bad thing. But, have other artists in mind too. That sometimes it's a good thing not to think so strategically and think more outside the box and not limit yourself either.
Right.
As well.
All right, looks like you have heard from us. So thank you very much and good luck, and we'll look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you for your comments.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we are finished with our non-action items. So we have just any announcements and calendar items. And I guess one of those from me is both sort of announcement slash calendar, which is we were trying to create a special meeting to do a kind of look at funding for some of the priorities. And we weren't able to get a quorum together this evening for the proposed time. And thus far, we have suggested the time of our next Art Commission meeting, which is February 19th, and starting the special meeting at 6 to do this funding discussion. But recognizing people's work schedules and other schedules and so on, do we think that that can work, or do we think we're challenged again and we should look at an alternate day? And so I wanted to just sort of hear from you guys if there's possibility, because obviously it's just difficult to get these scheduled, and as we can, I'd love to nail it because it's an important priority for the year. So if anyone thinks that they would prefer to try a different day, could you speak up now?
My only input would be that the third Thursday of the month at 7 p.m. is pretty much like in stone in my schedule. Coming before that time is tricky. I just don't know up until about the 11th hour if I can make it or not. So my suggestion would be, and I don't know how anybody would receive this, but we start at 7 and we just work until the work gets done.
So we would have first our meeting and then continue into the special meeting once we complete our meeting?
Right, and just to give a little bit of context, when I first joined the commission, it wasn't uncommon that the meetings went more than 2 hours. So I'm quite delighted that we're brief and we're getting to the point and everything's kept really relevant. But the truth is, it could go longer, and I think as long as the quality and the level of discussion didn't sort of taper off, we could certainly try it from my standpoint.
Does anybody object to doing it that way, starting at 7, where the time is etched in stone, and all the other commissioners we know have that in their calendars, and then we just sort of roll into the special following? And does that work from the city side, I would.
Sure, we could either bump the regular meeting to start an hour later and do the study session first, or we could flip it and do the study session after.
Oh, I
the
didn't know
regular
that we would
meeting.
have that option to actually start the special meeting at 7. The only reason that, because I am one of those people who likes to hold a tight meeting, I like the idea of having a firm 7 to 8 myself. So I'd like to propose maybe starting the special meeting at 7, conclude, because especially with something like funding, which I'm sure we could go on and on about, it would be good to have a finite amount of time. That would be my only thing. And then we roll into the other. If we could do that, then that'd be great. I can't disagree with that. Okay. Well,
But we could schedule the regular meeting and then immediately just, instead of putting a hard time on it, say immediately following that meeting will be the study session, and just have it at the end of the agenda for the regular meeting.
right. I think the only catch there is just the regular meetings could go on. I mean, depending on how many developer presentations or other items we have, and so that's where it gets stretched out, and then we lose people's energy, and I'd rather be bright and on it about the funding, because that's an important priority.
We can bring caffeine.
Except if you don't take caffeine. Okay, so that was my big calendar announcement. Do other people have calendar or announcement? Looks like at least, yes. Go.
So just a reminder, February 3rd, we are having a presentation and working session with Susan Narduli at the main library. So we're really hoping to have some good turnout so that she can answer questions and, and gather input as she goes further into her design development for the new media piece. The piece I request of the commissioners is that you please RSVP to staff, because if there is going to be a quorum present, it changes our procedure versus if there is not a quorum present. So it would really be helpful if you could give us a firm yes or no if you're going to be attending that meeting. And then, as we heard earlier this evening...
Oh, sorry, at least that's from 5 till 6 or 5:30 to 6:30?
5:30 to 6:30.
5:30 to 6:30 on the 3rd of February. And maybe you could just send one last reminder with that very clearly articulated directive, just because we don't have a couple of commissioners here tonight, and I could easily see 4 of us being there, so that would be important for you to know. Okay, thanks.
And the other item, as we heard earlier this evening, to put in your calendar, is February 23rd, when this bike selection goes to council.
Oh, yeah. So I guess we'll have the 19th to remind ourselves too, but, okay. Anyone else? Nope. Sounds good. Well, so then I think I will officially adjourn our meeting at 8:19. Thank you.